Hey everyone, it's Alex with alextucker.ca, and I'm here on the third episode of my podcast, and I'm joined today by digital marketer and content creator, The Mess Express. Mess, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, it's a Friday evening, and we just got through discussing how our week's going a little bit. So I think maybe I'll just dive right into some of the questions that I have prepared for you because I'm really excited to share a little bit about you with my audience. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you actually got into digital marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. When I went through college, I actually started out as a music major. And I totally lived up to the stereotype musician where I had that little voice in the back of your head that's like, oh, you're not going to make it in performance. You need a fallback or something. And so that started to eat away at me throughout the years. And it got to a point going into my third year where I really decided I was like, you know what? I kind of maybe I do need a backup plan, just in case this whole music thing doesn't work out. And that's when I was like, well, what are my other interests? What other things can I do? And I was like, well, I wonder if there's a way that I can combine my interests. And I was like, you know what? If you're a musician, you also have to be a great marketer and you have to be like great in the business. Like you have to know all this stuff. And I feel like it could really help me out and like give me an edge on the competition. So that's when I added my second degree for marketing. And as I started going through the classes of marketing and learning all of the different details of it, I really started to fall in love with it. And it got to a point in my career or my college experience where I started to realize that I kind of wanted to go more into the marketing field as a career rather than just the music career. And so then that's when I once that realization hit me, it was like a giant shift. Like for my mindset, I was so surprised where I was like, wait, but my entire life I've been building up towards music and music has always been the top of my mind. And now all of a sudden I'm being swept off my feet by marketing. What is this? This is crazy. And so I just went with it. I was taking as many marketing classes as I could. I was really, really enjoying all the classes that I was taking, just going over like the different psychology that goes into like consumer behavior, all of the different things from accounting to product management to implementation. And there was one specific class that I took my senior year, which was digital marketing. And I remember the year prior when I had signed up for this class, I was very, very excited to take it. And I've ever since I started falling in love with marketing, the kind of marketing that I enjoyed the most was all on digital landscapes. So, like your computer, your phone, your TV, everything that has a screen, that's the kind of stuff that I was automatically drawn to. And
Mhm.
maybe that's coming from like the side of me from being a millennial where I'm like, oh yay, a screen. My eyes are gonna be glued to it. But that was what just like excited me the most. And so when I took this digital marketing class, it was right at the same time that I had also discovered Twitch. And at this time, the way that I discovered Twitch was through a YouTuber. He just his name is Casually Explained. He just randomly tweeted out one day that he's like, oh, I'm streaming, and I was like, what the heck is streaming mean? What is that? And so I just clicked on the link, and it was such a great environment. I stuck around, I hung out, and then he knew that I was really into marketing. I was studying marketing, and him being a YouTuber had to know a lot about digital marketing in order for him to be successful. So we would have lots of conversations on his streams just about like marketing on YouTube, on the digital landscape, just like all these different factors that go into creating like a successful product and content. And so we would have great conversations with that. But then while that was happening, I was also taking this digital marketing class. And so it was so much fun to like be learning about these things in class and then be able to go home and go on Twitch and then be like, Jamie, I'm so excited. Let me tell you all this stuff that I just learned right now. And he's like, oh, okay, well, let's talk about it. And it like, I feel like that's what really, really solidified that sort of interest for me. So then after I graduated college, I knew that I wanted to live out in LA. I've always wanted to live in LA, the beach, California. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, which has just sand, but not the good kind of sand, the bad kind of sand. And and giant pokey plants everywhere. And I was like, I need to change of scenery. And so I moved out to LA. And my original plan was to actually go into doing the music for movies and TV shows. Like the person who plans out like which song or piece of music should go where in certain TV shows or movies or whatever.
Yeah.
But the year before I graduated college, I actually received an internship out here in LA, doing that exact same thing for music supervision. And that was a really, really awesome experience. But when I was doing that, it didn't exactly like click. Like I really, really enjoyed the kind of work, but then it wasn't the kind of work that I could see myself doing forever. And so that last year of college was when I was really, really thinking about it. And then I was like, is this exactly what I want to do? Where exactly should I be going? And then my whole discovery with digital marketing came about. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to dive headfirst. I'm going to go with this. This is my career path. And so when I moved out to LA, I had like it took me like 4 months to find a job. It was a long and very tedious process.
Hmm.
And so the way that I came about my job right now was literally just through a friend of a friend of a friend. And they were like, oh, one of my friends, they know someone who does something about marketing. And then I connected with them and they're like, oh, I know another friend who's in marketing. They can help you out. And so I was like bounced around like from connection to connection to connection. But the thing that was really great about that was it felt so much more like personal than like regular. You go online to careers.com or whatever and you're like, here's my resume again, and
Yeah.
instead you're like building these sorts of relationships, and then through these relationships, like you're able to just like market yourself basically, in order to like find either the next job or the next connection or just like network in that sort of sense.
Yeah.
um
I think networking is responsible for a lot of uh, better jobs, I think.
oh yeah.
Like non kind of um, minimum wage type jobs where you're doing something a little bit more advanced. I think that networking is often really responsible for that. So that's awesome.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
I'm feeling a lot of parallels with your story. Twitch has actually had a lot to do with how I got into marketing as well. Different scenario completely, really, but just the kind of the interest in it. And when I wanted to start streaming didn't end up being what I stuck with, but that was like the first sort of I guess content creation or marketing that I did, and then just seeing like feeling the energy of kind of what goes on in Twitch really kind of got me into it. But also, I was an actor and a singer when I was very young, and I always thought that that would be my career. But it's interesting what happens when expectation, meets reality. And it sounds like even though you enjoyed the music stuff, you really found your passion in your backup thing, which is really
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I was very, very fortunate in the fact that I was like, I'm just going to go into business, just totally on a whim, totally on a whim. And then I ended up loving it. I felt very, very lucky because it could have gone very south. And I could have
Hmm.
ended up with 2 degrees. I was like, well, now what do I do? So I'm very fortunate in that aspect.
Yeah, I think anyone who can make a living doing something that they enjoy is really lucky.
Oh
It's
yeah,
it's
that's the life right there.
yeah,
You've succeeded when you do what you love and you can survive off of that.
absolutely, yeah. So I wanted to ask you. I know you work for a pretty big company. So I
Mhm.
want, and I have like I've basically in my career I started doing client work with very small business owners and kind of some small and medium-sized businesses, and I've worked with some bigger businesses now, but I think nothing that compares to what you're doing. And I'm just kind of curious what a typical workday looks like for you.
Yeah. So, for everyone listening, to give some context, I am an assistant digital media planner for Honda, and the markets that we are responsible for are SoCal, which is all LA, DMA, North Texas, and San Diego. So those are the three markets that we have control over. And for that, Honda, they're a huge company. Everyone knows about them. And so what we do in our day to day is we're part of the activation team. And so we receive the creative assets for like different advertisements or units that we run. And then we send them out to all of the partners that we're working with, so that those partners and advertisers can show the units on their sites. That's the extremely watered down version of what I do. In regards to the day-to-day life, this is so cliche, but it really depends on what day it is. And it very much depends on where we're at in our like cycle. So we have like 6 different main cycles throughout the year, and we call them like event periods. There's 6 event periods throughout the year. And then the beginning of it, before the event period even starts, you have like the pre-prep kind of stuff where you're contacting the creative agency. You're like, okay, cool. What are our big ideas for this upcoming event period? What are we going to do? What are the different advertisements that we're going to run? What's our messaging going to be? What are our offers going to be? Like the different deals that you can get on cars, stuff like that. And so then we work to communicate with our partners, to get everyone on the same page, all this stuff, and everything. And then you get to your launch. And then the launch is always the craziest time because there's so much that goes into it, where it's like prepping, because you have some partners that are custom partners. And so you can't just send them like, here's a picture, just throw it on your webpage, because they'll have like very specific dimensions, or they'll have like one that like they want like a moving part. And so if they have a moving part, then they have to build it out and change it directly. And so that has to be communicated with our creative agency. And so there's all these different aspects that go into hyping up for launch. And then you hit launch, all your advertisements go out. You're like, okay, great. Now, are we running with the correct advertisements? And so you have to get screenshots from partners. You have to make sure that like everything that is live is correct. And that's the scariest part, because it's like, okay, we've prepped so much. We've done all of the work that we possibly can. And now we have to make sure, like to a T, that it's all running perfect. Like we can't have any outdated creatives. We can't have creatives running from last event period. Like we have to make sure that everything is perfect. So then about after the launch process, then that's when you work on the performance aspect, where for us, every single week we go through, we analyze all of our partners' performance, see how well they're doing. We match them up with different like KPI benchmarks, and then track that progress throughout the event period. And so if a partner's like not doing well, like say, for example, we are running a video asset, and we have a partner, and the VCR that we want them to hit is like 90% or something. So over the weeks we track their progress, and it's like, oh, this week they're at 94%. That's awesome. And then the next week it's like, oh, they're at 82%. What happened? And so then just like reaching out to them, making sure that their performance is aligned, everything like that. And then after that, we get to the end of launch, to make sure, and in that process, we have to make sure that all of the tags are turned off. We have to make sure that the tracking is done correctly, all the reporting is done correctly, gather all of the wrap-up reports from each of the partners to go over final performances, see what things need to be improved. If we're booting off any partners for the next event period, whatever and anything it may be. So that's like what a typical event period cycle looks like. And overall, when you lay it out like that, it doesn't seem too terrible. But the thing is, we have event periods that will overlap each other. And so it gets very confusing very, very fast.
Mhm. Yeah, for
And then,
sure.
yeah. And then within that, we have our normal monthly routine things like doing billing, tracking billing on like all these different levels, and like doing different media plan sweeps, doing site serve reporting, like all these different aspects of it. So it actually ends up being a lot of work. But it very much depends where we're at in the cycle. So right now we are in the very, very middle of our current event period. So which normally would be great and that would be fine. But we are also planning for next year, for 2021. And with that, we have to determine what are the different rates we can get from partners, what can partners offer to us, who are we going to choose to run with and not run with, everything like that. And so it's that in itself is quite a large process, but it's really, really cool to see all of the different, first of all, to see all the different partners that are out there and all the different things that they can like offer us. And even now, I've been working here for a year now, and I'm realizing all these cool different marketing techniques that I didn't even know was possible. I'm like, oh man, I mean, I knew my information was being sold, but I didn't know it was being like used in that sort of way. And that sort of way is really creative, or like it's like out of the box. And like it's really, really cool to just continuously be learning about all this stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about marketing and advertising is that you're always learning stuff. And I really enjoy. I haven't done a ton of advertising, but I've done a little bit on Facebook and on Google and Bing. And I've always felt like it would be really enjoyable to do something like what you're talking about, like just so at such a grander scale, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that must be really fascinating.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely difficult because when you're working with smaller clients, that obviously comes with a much smaller budget. And so with that, it's really, really hard to find partners to like work with, because a lot of the partners will have a minimum. They're like, okay, the minimum is, $500,000.
Mhm.
And like if you're working with like a mom and pop shop, that could be like their entire life savings, and everything that they own still won't even amount to that much. And so it's I think it's really a really cool thing to work for such a big company, but I also think it's a really awesome opportunity to work for the smaller clients, because then you can really like think outside the box. Like, how can I make the most of this dollar? Like, how can I make this one $10 go as long as possible, like reach the most amount of people, all that stuff. And so it's a challenge, but I think it's really cool just to be able to think about it in that sort of efficiency aspect.
Absolutely, yeah. It's uh, it's always interesting to see what you can do to keep the costs down, and what you can test and optimize, and
Hmm.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to ask. I've seen. I mean, I know I'm not around in your streams that often, but I've been sort of watching from afar, seen you grow really fast on Twitch since you started streaming, and I understand that you're doing really well on YouTube as well. So I wanted to ask if there's any particular marketing strategies that you're implementing in order to achieve those results.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that when people start a Twitch channel, it is so difficult for them to get out of that 0 to 5 viewer kind of
Hmm.
hole. And once you get out of that, that's when you start growing, start gaining some traction, everything like that. But that 0 to 5 viewers, that's arguably the hardest part to get out of. And so for me, with my background with streaming, I was actually very fortunate because I was never in that hole. When I started streaming with like 10 average viewers. And so
Hmm.
the way that I kind of went about that was the when I first discovered Twitch, I was on Casually Explains his Twitch channel. I was a commenter on there. I would show up like all the time, basically every single day or every time that he streamed. And I was a very, very prominent person on that Twitch stream. And so through that, I was able to make a ton of online friends, which was a totally weird concept for me because I've never had only online friends before. My entire life, like I didn't grow up on the internet. And so like I never had a friend where you didn't know what they looked like or you didn't even know their real name. And like, but still they're a really cool person and you talk to them all the time. Like I've never been in that situation before. And so all of a sudden I'm meeting all these people, I'm communicating with all these people, and all these people are really, really cool. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And so then I would gain like all of these friends and everything. And I remember that like a few times on Casually Explained stream, we would talk about like streaming and marketing and all this stuff. And so I kind of gained like a mini following. I'm doing that in air quotes right now, but you can't see me. I've gained like a mini following. And I use air quotes around that, and I don't really like to use the word following because they're really just my friends. Like I don't see them as like
You built a
followers.
community.
Yeah, yeah. It was like a really, really nice community. And so then I started streaming. Like my very, very, very first stream was like 3 weeks after I discovered Twitch. And like super early on, I was like, you know, I'm just gonna stream. Here we go. We're gonna play Ocarina of Time. It'll be great. And so then all those people that I had like become friends with, I was like, hey, I've never played this game before. Come hang out. And they're like, oh my God, we have to see this. And so then through that, I was like, oh my gosh, this went super, super well. And then I stopped. And then I like didn't stream again. But I still kept up in not just that community, but other communities as well, like Daniel Wayne. That was really it, just those two communities. That was it. And so then fast forward like a year and a half to April of earlier this year. And I remember like a lot of my friends and we like created like a pretty small group. There was like about 5 or 6 of us. And we created a small group. We would always play like StarCraft together every single week and like just small stuff like that. And they're like, oh yeah, are you ever going to stream? They would always tease me about streaming because they're like, oh, you got to stream this game, or oh, stream this game, or oh, play this game and stream it. So I was like, you know what? Enough with all the talk. I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to stream. So then I set up my first stream. I told all of my friends about it. I was like, hey, I'm going to be streaming for like basically the first time ever. Come hang out. I would love to have you there. And then from that, like everyone was like, absolutely, I want to be here. And so then it was a really, really cool, like kind of like a reunion of everyone where all of my friends just like were together in the same space. And it was just like a really, really cool moment for me. And I was like, you know what? We're going to do this again, but we're going to do it tomorrow night. And so then everyone came back the next night. And then slowly through that, naturally what happens is if someone starts streaming right away and then they have a giant influx of viewers, what happens over time is those people are like, okay, I'm used to seeing this person. I'm not going to attend every single stream anymore. I'm just going to like pop in every now and then. And that absolutely happened to me. But I was very fortunate in the fact of the rate of people coming was larger than the rate of people going. And so that's really what I attribute my success to, was that rate difference. And so specifically the kinds of marketing techniques that I would use is it was all within the game. Especially early on. Now I'm starting to do a lot more different tactics with like digital marketing and stuff. But early on, it was all within the game. And my entire marketing strategy was focused around what game am I going to pick. And so what I would do is I would go on Twitch and I would look. First requirement is what game can my computer handle? Because I was running off of an office laptop. And so it was like horrible combination. And then the second requirement was what's a game that still has a large following, but not that many streamers are playing. So that way I will, if someone's looking at a game and they're like, oh, there's only, 7 streamers on here. These are my options. Who am I going to pick from? Then, statistically, they're going to pick me 1 out of the 7 times. And so I would try to find those sort of games. And that worked really, really well. So starting off with Undertale, that was a really, really great opportunity for me because Undertale has a really amazing following, but there's only like a very small handful of streamers who are actually streaming the game. And especially because it was my first time ever playing Undertale, that's like a huge moment for everyone who's ever played Undertale. Like it's such a huge thing where there are so many people who wish that they could go back and like just like erase a game from their memory so that they could experience it again. And so that's something that I really want to cultivate on my streams is creating that experience for other people where instead of them needing to forget about it entirely, they can just like kind of like live vicariously through me as I play it for the very first time. And so that's kind of what my marketing strategy has become with that. And it's been pretty good so far.
Yeah, it's going really well for you, and I mean that just sounds like a lot of it, sounds like kind of just digital marketing 101. I mean, you found where the people are, and you found a kind of a good niche where you could get a good portion of that traffic, and you created the content that people wanted, and it's just yeah, it's working really well for you. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Now that I feel like now in my streaming career, I kind of have that down a little bit more solid. And so now I've been able to branch out a little bit more into other like different marketing strategies, like even in the way that I title my streams. Like having it be like a very like eye-catching sort of title that like really draws the user in. Just like little tiny things like that, like even from the going live notification or all these little different things. Like you have to realize when you're doing marketing, you have a central product, and everything you do outside of that central product needs to build up the product. So for me, the product is the streams. So everything that surrounds that, the title of the stream, the thumbnail of the YouTube video, the going live notification, all those different things have to go back to the stream in order to like build it up in its entirety.
Yeah, it's really insightful, and just amazing advice for anyone who's looking to get started on Twitch, or I mean streaming anywhere really, or doing any kind of content creation. Really valuable advice there.
Yeah.
So we know that you are really into marketing and music and gaming, maybe more recently. Do you have any other cool passions that you want to talk about?
Oh wow. Oh wow. Wow. It's interesting. Every time I get asked that question at a certain point in my life, the answer is always different. Every single point in my life, I always have a different answer for something else that I'm interested in. I feel like recently, my life has been so busy with my full-time job at Honda and then working on my Twitch streams. It's been really, really hard to find passions outside of those two areas. But one of the things that I have been working on, that's kind of been in like the back of my mind that's slowly coming to formation. I think it's actually in social coaching, like social skills and social coaching, where that's actually been like an underlying passion of mine throughout my entire life. Where growing up, I have always loved analyzing people. And not like putting them under a microscope, like getting in their minds, kind of like analyzing, but analyzing interactions between people. So if person A says something to person B, how does person B take that? What can person A do differently to change the outcome of that, to maybe make it more positive, make it a better experience, stuff like that. And so that's been something that I've been doing for as long as I can remember. And so now that I'm older and I have like a career and I have all this stuff, I've been thinking about it a lot more. Um, and in my past, I would often help some friends that I would come across that would confide in me, and they're like, "Hey, I don't feel good about my social skills. I don't know how to improve. I just know that I feel awkward all the time. I just know that I feel very socially awkward." And so I've helped them. I've given them social coaching lessons and everything like that. And so it wasn't until about a year ago that I was talking to one of my friends, and he was like, "You know what? Maybe you could do that like as a job. Like start a YouTube channel, start like offering coaching classes that just talks about like how to survive small talk, or how to like uh what to take care of on your body, like how to communicate with someone, how to approach the opposite sex for the first time, or like, anything like that." And so I've been thinking about that a lot, and I was like, you know what, this could actually be a pretty good idea. And so that's been something that I've been very slowly working on in between my Twitch streams and music and Honda. And so I'm pretty excited about it. Just seeing it all kind of come to fruition. Just working on all the different aspects that I'm going to be able to offer, all the different products I'll be able to offer, and just like everything that I want to do with it. So I'm actually pretty excited about that.
That's really awesome. It sounds like a really organic evolution of kind of your career and personality, even just yeah, like bringing out the best in other people, which
Mhm.
is obviously a very noble pursuit, but also another thing that you can do that you enjoy. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I'm very excited to see where it goes.
All right. Are there any digital marketing trends that you see developing for the next year into 2021 and beyond?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think it's really interesting to see all of the differences that COVID has made to marketing, especially in the digital space. Um,
Hmm.
because of quarantine, once quarantine hit back in March, everything went into lockdown. Everyone's staying inside all the time. No one's going out. So because no one's going out, they're not met with the out of home marketing, like the billboards, print, like bus stops. They're not seeing any of that stuff, and media consumption skyrocketed,
Hmm.
specifically video, because people are at home all day. What are they going to do? They're going to watch Hulu, they're going to watch Amazon, they're going to watch Netflix, they're going to watch all their favorite shows, they're going to be consuming all this media, they're going to be, on social media all the time, they're going to be on digital landscapes at every point in their day to day. And so since the start of COVID, video specifically has increased like exponentially. But not just video like person to person, but like cohabitants as well. And so what people are doing are co-viewing. And there have been some like really interesting studies on this, and like really interesting outcomes where people are now, instead of before March, people would just watch a show. They'd sit down on the couch by themselves and watch a TV show. And then once it's over, they turn it off and then they go do whatever they want. But now, like post COVID, and what this has brought, I guess I can't really say post COVID, but after March, what this has brought was now people are sitting down with their roommates, with their family, with friends who probably shouldn't be over at their homes, and they watch things together. And so, like, co-viewing has skyrocketed, and that is a trend that has been taking off ever since. And so I believe that co-viewing will continue to increase, and which is a great thing for marketers, because instinctually for me as a person, I would think that like, oh, if I have a friend over and we're watching TV together, I'm going to mute the commercials. I'm going to talk to them in between the commercials and stuff like that. But what studies have found is when like the engagement in advertisements increases the more people that you have.
Right, because they can talk about it.
Exactly. They can talk about it, they can acknowledge what's happening on the screen, and that's great, great news for advertisers because then, like us as marketers, will be able to tap into that space and find ways not to just reach the sole person watching this, but the group of people watching it to ignite a conversation about the
Mhm.
advertisement to get them engaged with the product, whatever it is that they're selling. So that's definitely a thing that's going to continue. And I think overall, just video consumption as a whole is going to skyrocket. Specifically, I think that gaming, every company right now is trying to get into the gaming sphere. Like everything, everyone wants to be involved in esports now. It's like the new cool thing,
Mhm.
Gamers, I guess, were the nerds growing up, but now they're the cool kids now. Everyone's trying to reach them because companies are finally starting to realize how big of an industry, an untapped industry, gaming is and what gaming provides. And so that's going to be absolutely huge. I suspect within the next year, like there is going to be such a huge boom in Twitch alone, but then all other sorts of esports gaming platforms and just in general, it's really going to take off. It's really going to take off.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said. I think that's really really insightful and really valuable for people who are looking at getting started in any kind of online marketing, digital marketing space, is to really invest your energy in some way into developing a proficiency with video because yeah, I agree. I think it's already started to become a huge factor, and it's just gonna increase exponentially.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
all right. Well, I want to wrap this up, but I know that some of our listeners are going to want to find you online and consume more of your amazing content. So, what's the best place or places for people to find you on the internet?
Oh yeah, that would be my Twitch channel at Twitch TV dot wait, hold on. What is it? It's twitch.tv twitch.tv/ the mess express with underscores.
Okay, so twitch.tv/the_mess_express.
That's it.
And I imagine that once people are there, they can find your YouTube channel probably through it.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so definitely check out the Mess Express. She is all kinds of fun if you hadn't figured that out already by listening to this podcast. And just thank you so much for doing this. I was really excited, and I'm glad that we finally got to sit down and have a chat. And I'd love to have you back, maybe in a few more guests, and get maybe a bit more specific about something.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, you enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Take care.